The Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend is over, and it was a rollercoaster ride. From the bitter lows of FP1 to the surprising high of one of the more exciting races of the year. While those of us watching at home may have been pleasantly surprised with the on-track action, those who went to the racetrack for the first day of testing were furious. Now, those fans have joined together to take legal action against the organisers of the race over the terrible handling of Thursday's test sessions. But let's start with the positives, because despite all of the negativity surrounding this race in the lead-up and after Thursday, there was a lot to like. Despite the track surface temperature being roughly 30 degrees colder than a normal F1 track, the grip seemed to be there most of the time, though Lando Norris might disagree with that. There were a few spins at the end of the strip, but for the most part, the drivers seemed to hold it together, even after the safety car restarts, which were thought to be the most dangerous aspect of the weekend. Max Verstappen drove to victory again, overcoming a penalty for his Turn 1 Lap 1 move on Charles Leclerc, which was definitely premeditated. Knowing that the worst the race stewards would give him was a 5-second penalty, and considering his average winning margin this season is well over 10 seconds, getting past Leclerc was far more important. He could just build the gap once that was out of the way. Taking a 5-second penalty for a longer-term advantage is something we've seen a lot of this season. George Russell cutting Turn 1 at Monza is an example that comes to mind. Though in Max's case, his late pass on Leclerc showed that even if he hadn't made that early move, he would have been just fine once DRS opened and his almost wingless Red Bull could make the most of its incredible aero efficiency to outdrag race the Ferrari. Though that situation may never have happened if the safety car hadn't come out after George Russell turned in on Max Verstappen at Turn 11 on lap 25. It looked like George didn't even realise Max was there. That gave Max the time to make the free pit stop he needed to get fresher tyres than Leclerc and eventually pass him for the lead of the race. Despite Verstappen winning again, this felt like a proper competitive Formula 1 race, which is something we haven't seen a lot of this season. If it continues to provide racing like that for the next 10 years, then maybe it isn't as bad a fit for the F1 calendar as many first thought. But that doesn't mean it wasn't without its problems. The first day of testing was one of the lowest points for the sport in recent years. You will know by now that FP1 was cut very short after a water valve cover was knocked loose just minutes after the cars hit the track for the first time. Fernando Alonso spotted it early and managed to avoid it, but the car following closely behind him, driven by Carlos Sainz, was not so lucky. The cover went straight under Carlos's SF23, destroying the floor of his car, punching a hole through his survival shell and into the cockpit that was big enough you could see through it, and damaging his engine and battery. Carlos couldn't feel his legs after the impact, but in the end, walked away from his car unscathed. But this accident could have been far worse than it was. After that, the organisers and race stewards made the correct decision that every single manhole cover, drain cover, water valve cover, and any other piece of track surface that wasn't asphalt needed checking. What followed was a 5.5-hour delay, while crews removed all 30 covers along the 3.8-mile layout and filled the holes with sand and asphalt. As the fans patiently waited for the 2:30 AM start to FP2, a message came over the speakers around the stands, telling the fans they had to leave before the session began. They were furious. A since-deleted statement released by the Vegas race on its social media platforms read, "Due to logistical considerations for our fans and our staff, we've made the determination that we will be closing all Las Vegas Grand Prix fan areas at 1:30 AM. We look forward to welcoming fans back later today for exciting FP3 and qualifying sessions." Fans were right to be furious. Tickets for just Thursday's running started at $200 and went up a long way from there. Even if you'd bought the cheapest ticket, you would have spent $25 per minute of on-track action, if you can call the first 10 minutes of any FP1 session action. After sitting through a cold night in a grandstand or wandering the fan areas, waiting for anything to happen, to then be forcibly removed from the track must have been heart-wrenching. The protectionism over the race all weekend left a sour taste in many fans' mouths. This TikTok showed aggressive security staff shouting in the faces of fans crossing one of the many bridges over the track. This isn't how you invite new fans to get excited about the sport. But it is Thursday's handling of the forceful removal of fans that has become the subject of a class action lawsuit. The grandstands were half empty for that first day of running, but those that did turn up are demanding compensation for the lack of on-track action they saw. Formula One Chief Executive Stefano Domenicali and Las Vegas Grand Prix CEO Renee Wilm issued a lengthy statement on Friday justifying the forceful removal of fans, explaining the delay was down to FIA staff being forced to make repairs to the circuit after a manhole cover became dislodged in FP1. Strict union rules meant that staff working at the race had to go home, which meant the fans had to follow. We've all been to events like concerts, games, and even other Formula One races that have been cancelled because of factors like weather or technical issues, read the statement. It happens, and we hope people will understand. Domenicali and Wilm added that fans were told to leave due to concern about our public safety and security officials, transportation employees, and hospitality staff. However, the statement was notable for the complete absence of any sort of apology, merely describing the chain of events as disappointing. The Dimopoulos law firm, working in conjunction with JK Legal and Consulting, has now filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of the 35,000 spectators it says were at the track on Thursday. Lead lawyer Steve Dimopoulos said, "We will vindicate the rights of the fans that travelled great distances and paid small fortunes to attend, but were deprived of the experience." The Las Vegas Grand Prix organization has refused to comment on the class action, saying, "We cannot comment on the litigation. Our focus is on ensuring that our fans have an entertaining experience in a safe and secure environment, which is always our top priority." The lawsuit is asking for payments of in excess of $30,000 per spectator, split equally between general and special damages. The action states that the lawsuit alleges breach of contract, negligence, and deceptive trade practices against the defendants, who are the Las Vegas GP and TAB Contractors Incorporated, the company involved with maintaining the track. The Dimopoulos firm is a large personal injury firm, and their advertising can be seen on billboards and TV adverts across the city. The claim also references the conditions on tickets, which suggests that if the event was cancelled and not rescheduled, a refund up to face value would be due. It adds that, as of the time of this complaint, none of the attendees and/or invitees who purchased the tickets to the practice run event and were deprived of the opportunity to attend the same through no fault of their own have received and/or were offered any refunds for their tickets. The claim asks for money damages in an amount that will fairly and reasonably compensate them for the harm caused by the defendants. In addition, the plaintiffs claim damages for mental anguish in an amount to be determined by the jury that is fair and reasonable in consideration of the willful, reckless, and intentional conduct of the defendant. As opposed to a full refund, single-day ticket holders have instead been offered a $200 voucher for the Las Vegas Grand Prix official shop. Those who bought 3-day tickets have been offered nothing in the way of compensation for how they were treated. Tom Carey, who was at the race reporting for the British publication The Telegraph, reported that in the shop, a Mercedes hoodie was $210, a Ferrari hoodie was $328, and Aston Martin team-issue caps were $100. So your $200 voucher could almost get you a jumper. For longtime fans of the sport, a lot of this will sound unfortunately familiar. Belgium 2021 is the most recent example, when rain on Sunday meant that fans stood around for hours in the cold and wet, and only got to see 2 laps driven behind the safety car. No compensation or refunds were paid then either. This event was already under the microscope as locals to the track had to deal with months of disruption in the lead-up. The extortionate pricing of tickets, which went over $100,000 for some hospitality packages, meant that the average fan was also put off from coming. Now, this massive lawsuit, which if successful could cost the organisers upwards of $1.05 billion, is going to keep Formula One in a negative light for potential American fans across the country, not just the locals. The Las Vegas Grand Prix was meant to be a flagship event for the American market that is apparently increasingly interested in what this great sport has to offer. While the race showed that Formula One can offer excitement and thrills to those new fans, the events on Thursday will leave a dark but at the end of every discussion about the sport. We asked you to leave comments on our video reporting on this over the weekend, and many of you did. Brennan Donner 8604 said they were lucky enough to have a ticket for the whole weekend, but that many of those around them weren't, and that everyone deserved a refund. TGHH0214 said they were there all weekend and love F1, but after spending $3,000 on their ticket, they thought whoever made the call to kick out fans should be fired. Dark Drake X said that after paying $1,000 for 2 tickets, they felt that the FIA failed the track and failed the fans. What do you think of the race's handling of Thursday's issues? And what is your opinion on the weekend as a whole? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you want more F1 news and analysis like this, then make sure to subscribe. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.